Today my intent is to demonstrate some of the most basic, safe techniques and common upper body tie-up positions. I believe that it is important to develop high percentage throws that we can use against the very toughest competition, and at least develop strong defense to stop our opponent's throws. I like the upper body tie-up position, I like upper body throws, and have had to rely on them numerous times in competition. In this video, remember, I am left-handed, I lead with my left leg, I tie up with my left arm, and if you are right-handed, you may have to reverse the technique. I think this is a very common position that an upper body throw man will force into, and he scores from this position. If nothing else, we need to know how to defend this position. Okay, so I just want to go over some defensive positions. How do we clear this tie-up? How do we get away from our opponent? And more importantly, how do we score from this position if we're not going to throw, if we do have a guy that's forcing us in? Most important thing I have to remember in this position is the underhook. Okay, my opponent's underhook, if it's tight, you can see his hand back there. There's no way I can go back and grab his wrist. Okay, there's no way I can go back and grab it. In order to get control of his wrist, I'm going to have to shake my upper body a little bit. I'm going to have to twist right there, shook it a little bit. Now I can get to it. I'm just going to loosen that grip. Loosen that grip right in there. Okay? Once I can get to it, I can control it. Okay? Once I have the wrist, I have opportunities from this position. I can lower my level. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag off of this. I'm going to push this wrist down, and we're wrestling here. Just push in. I come back, get the wrist. I'm going to push it down and push it in. Push it down, push it in. As I push it in, I'm going to hit my drag. The drag means my underhook arm is coming out, sliding through to the tricep. Right there. Swinging this arm through, I'm stepping outside, not inside, outside, and I'm winding up in this position right here. Okay, right there. That's what I want. That's what I'm after. So, let's twist a little bit, get a hold of that wrist right away. I'm pushing it down, clearing to the tricep, clearing the arm completely. As that's cleared, stepping outside, going to the far waist, far hip. The side that I drag to, if I'm on the right side, dragging right, pushing the arm down and dragging right, stepping right. My front trip is going to take place with my left foot, my left heel, right there, and I'm driving over it. So after I go to the far hip, I put my left knee to the mat, and I finish right there. One more time. Right from here, drag position. I'm to the corner. I'm not all the way behind it, to the corner. Now I'm just going to step my foot in, place my knee on the mat, force him to the mat, getting my 2-point takedown right there. Regardless of the under-over position, regardless of the side the under-over position is on, I need to be able to wrestle in that position. If my opponent's left arm is under, I need to be able to wrestle here. If his right arm is under, I need to be able to wrestle here. Regardless of which underhook I see, I need to be able to clear it. I need to be able to come back to the wrist, push it down, hit my arm drag. From this position, I have other options. Anytime I can get to the wrist, clear the wrist, pushing the arm down, I'm going to lower my level at the same time. My opponent's pushing into me, trying to drive in, come back to that wrist, push it down, lower my level, chest over knee. Now I have some opportunities here. I have a quick double leg attack right here at the knees. I have a high crotch attack here. And most importantly, I have a trip off of his lead leg, which is real effective. I have a basic double leg attack off of my underhook right here. As I twist, pushing the underhook down, I lower my level, and I have a double leg attack right here. After my level is lowered, I penetrate just like I would normally, driving in to the knee level, stepping my outside leg up, and finishing this driving across. I also have an opportunity as I clear the underhook, lowering my level to hit my high crotch right here. Okay? Snake that arm down, knee level, finishing the high crotch just like I did the double leg, driving across. Basic double leg finishes, basic high crotch finishes. The advantage to shooting those positions from the under over is that I clear this arm. As I lower, I put his underhook arm in a position that he can't counter me. As I lower, that arm goes in. It's no longer effective for defense, okay? If that's where I'm going, or if I'm pushing it down, going to the double leg right there. Last option I'll do here, my favorite option, is a trip. As I come back to the underhook, come back and control the wrist, push it down, lowering my level. As I hit here, I'm going to trip my lead leg. It's going to trip his lead leg. As I do that, I have to, again, get rid of that arm. I don't want it to be able to defend what I'm doing. As I step in, my heel cups around his heel, and my knee goes down. As I lower my level, right here I come. My arms finish very similarly to the double leg position. Push the arm down, clear. Penetration, I have my level lowered. My penetration is forward now. I'm gonna trip, put my left knee down, clear my left arm out to the waist, and finish. Right here, right there. Getting my 2-point takedown, looking for back points.
There it is. Too strong.
2-point takedown. Nice. 15 seconds. 15.
They're at least tied. And I know they have 3 and 1.
Olympic Wrestling and a group A member of the United States Olympic Committee. USA Wrestling is a dynamic organization with over 100,000 members. It sponsors educational and recreational programs for the youth.
Come on, Steve, get in there, Ben. Come on, Steve, go, go. Go, 2. Come on, 2. All right.
I want to remember in the under-over position that everyone has a strong side. Everyone has a strong side, everyone has a weak side. By experimenting in this position with lowering your level, taking shots, double legs, high crotches, hitting your whip over, throw from here, you're going to find where you're comfortable. You're going to find which arm is more comfortable in the underhook position, which arm is more comfortable in the overhook position. If you're a left leg lead, I think you're going to be more comfortable with your left arm underhooked. If you're a right leg lead, you're going to be more comfortable with your right arm underhooked. That's also going to put your right leg forward. It's going to allow you to penetrate in on the low level shots just like you would if you were in a head-to-head position. If my opponent forces me to my weak side, if his strong side is my weak side, what do I do to get to my strong side? Number one, I'm not always going to be able to get to my strong side, so therefore I need to be able to clear an underhook from either side, whether it's my strong side or my weak side. I need to be able to clear this underhook going back to the wrist on my weak side as well as my strong side. If I work in this position and I feel comfortable in an upper body tie-up, I can pummel back in. Okay? How do I do that? I do that by putting weight on this forearm right here, digging back in, okay? Digging back in, and eventually my goal is to get in the underhook position. Even if I wind up in a double under position, that's okay. It's all right. I ought to be able to wrestle from there if I'm comfortable there. Okay? And that's a position I have to work on to get comfortable there. I can pummel back in. Many times, as I pummel back in, my opponent may dig in at the same time, and we just kind of switch sides. Okay? You can do that drill from right here, pummeling drill, coming over the forearm, my overhook arm, digging in to the underhook, heads change, he digs in, I dig in, we're on the other side, we come back, do it again, pick it up a little, okay? When I get good in this position, and I've worked with the upper body position, maybe I've experimented and wrestled some freestyle, some Greco-Roman, I'm going to learn how important it is to adjust my feet. As important as it is to come out of my weak side and pummel back in, it's also important to put the right foot in the danger zone. So if my left arm is under, my left leg is under, okay, I may want to, as I'm digging in, change feet. So there's a little footwork involved with the pummeling drill. Okay? You need to find out where you're comfortable here. Many Greco guys will put the overhook arm, that leg, in the danger zone for better defense. They feel vulnerable here. I have offense here. Sometimes for throws, I don't have quite as strong of a defense here, but I do have offense, and I can defend the underhook position when my opponent is in here from clearing this wrist. In an under-over position, I do have some safe offensive throws from this position. I really think of clearing the wrist, lowering my level as offense, although I am getting away from the throwing opportunity, which kind of makes it defensive. I want to go into some throwing positions, and what I'd like to show first are some high-risk throwing positions. I'm going to do a couple high-risk and then get into some more high-percentage, low-risk throwing positions. Anytime my opponent's hips are out, and you see this a lot in freestyle and collegiate, don't have the space in Greco, but I do see it in freestyle and collegiate style. Anytime my hips are out, my opponent is pushing into me, I have the opportunity to do an underarm spin, which means my underhook is going to clear. It's coming through. As it comes through, my lead leg steps. As I come through, I want to turn 180 degrees, but I don't want to do that by taking a lot of steps to get to this position. I want to do that by taking just one step. So again, from my underhook position, my opponent may push into me a little bit. There's space. I can clear my body through here. My underhook comes out. Shoulder comes under. Shoulder comes under, and as my shoulder comes under, I step my lead leg. I pivot on my back leg. That's my spin foot. And as I do that, I spin on my toe, completing a 180-degree turn and putting my foot down perpendicular to my opponent. My arm, his arm is tight, and I'm ready to complete the finish on my underarm spin. One more time. Under over position, there's space, my opponent's pushing into me a little bit. My underhook arm comes out. It's really important that I control this elbow. Always control the elbow, maybe even a little higher, tricep position. My underarm comes out, my underhook arm comes out, shoulder under, lead leg kicks, because I need momentum to spin me through, pivoting on my foot, right to here. Now I'm going to finish by rolling. Tuck this arm under tight, planting him on his shoulder and on my shoulder, rolling, getting the back points right there. One more time. Underhook comes out, through to the other side, to the overhook arm side, lead leg steps, 180-degree turn, twisting into the mat, getting my 3 points for freestyle right here. Collegiate style, I don't have control yet. I don't have control until I can come up and find a position that the ref agrees that I have gained control of my opponent. Right here, it's difficult to do. I'm going to pull my underhook arm out. I'm going to try to get off my hips, I'm going to try to get up here, and I'm going to pull my underhook arm out. Looking for my headlock opportunity right here. If you find that it's too difficult to limp your underhook arm out, the arm that did the spinning, I'm going to come to the head from right here. I'm going to come to the head, getting control of my opponent, trying to find a chest-to-chest position, looking for back points. One more time. Can't pull my arm out. Need to raise up, getting my hips off the mat, circle to the head, trying to get control right here. Chest-to-chest position. For freestyle, and even Greco at times, the underarm spin can be fairly effective. In collegiate style, because of the lack of opportunity there to get the control, it is a high-risk throw. In freestyle, it can be a very high percentage low-risk throw. In collegiate style, it's oftentimes a big risk. From this position, I have other options, and I'm going to go through one other fairly high-risk position. Done well, it can be very high percentage, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of practice to get this down. From the under-over position, many times my opponent will put his hips out, dropping his head low. Okay? His head's low, and when I feel that head on my shoulder instead of up on ear-to-ear position, when the head drops, many times I can limp my arm out. My underhook arm is going to come out. Okay? I'm going to limp it out. Come to the head. Come to the head. Just like on my second technique video, I'm going to go to the face lock position from here. Elbow to elbow. This elbow stays glued to my side. Head in the middle. This is it, right there. I have a couple opportunities from an under-over position to get to the face lock. If I can limp out, limping my underhook arm out, rotating around to the head, cinching it up right there, it's a good opportunity. It's a pretty high percentage. I believe if you work on it, it's a very high percentage. The other opportunity, I can hit this right off of my arm spin. Okay, if I spin him and I miss, but I come back around front, spin, get through right here. I get through, but I can't spin him down. I come to the head, face lock position. However I get there, right now, especially for freestyle and Greco, I need to take my opponent to his back. It's not a control position that I can use in collegiate. It's a little more difficult to get control. Freestyle and Greco, I can take him to his back. However I get to the face lock position on my feet, I have a great opportunity to throw from here. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of drilling. Even if it wasn't from the under-over position and it was just from a snap-down position, and I find my face lock, however I get there, if it's from a collar tie, it's from an under-over, limping my arm out, hitting my underarm spin, coming to the front. Okay, we'll do that underarm spin one more time. As I come to my underarm spin, in a way I miss my opportunity to roll him to the mat, and I circle back to the front. Here's my spin. I missed my opportunity. I'm going to come to the front, find my face lock position, which again is here. Thumb never goes deeper than the cheek. Elbow to elbow position. Butterfly lock. The arm that's around the head, that elbow stays glued to my side. Keep my opponent's head in the stomach. Butterfly lock. And here's my power. Here's my power to throw. I step in. I'm going to put him on his right shoulder from this position. Right shoulder, stepping in, keeping the head low. If the head isn't kept low, he pulls his head out on the way through. The head has to be kept low in this position. Okay? Low in the abdomen, tight lock, hips roll in. That gives me power to throw. As my hips come in, I step up, and I take him to his right shoulder. If I can come over the top from this position, I got my 3 points. Maybe I can hold him here and get another point, but if I really need control, I have to get back up. I have to roll from my shoulder, hip heist over, chest to chest here. Now I'm going to hold him here, getting control, or I can walk around, hook my legs in, and look for the pin right there. It's a great pinning combination, difficult to do, takes a lot of practice, but I can't get control right there. I'll run through that one more time. However I get to the face lock, this is a position where my throw comes from. I step in, other leg steps in, putting him to his right shoulder. I have to hip over right now, little hip heist maneuver, putting my chest down. Once I'm chest to chest, if I need to get better control, if I can't hold him here and get my control, I'll step over, leg in on both sides, looking for the fall.
Having no success pummeling in on my left arm, I see the opportunity to underarm spin the opposite side. I circle to the front, becoming square with my opponent. Attempt to control the head, finding the face lock position. Coming back to my feet, locking my hands. It's crucial now that I hip into my opponent, forcing him to his right shoulder and eventually to his back for back points.
I'm going to move on, going into a whip over, what I refer to as a whip over from the under over position. Basically, it's a hip throw or a headlock without the head, because I have the body, have the arm. That's what I'm going to do my throwing with. When I was coming up as a kid, when I was growing up, I was taught how to do back step, basic back step. As I swing my foot behind me, I pivot and twist, turning 180 degrees. And I had real difficulty trying to learn how to do the back step without getting my feet tangled up and completing the throw. I had the opportunity to learn what I refer to as a T-step. The T-step, my lead leg makes a T on the side of my opponent that I throw to. So the T is made right here. Anywhere that I get close to that T position, whether it's even here or here, anywhere close, I'm going to be able to make my throw. Anytime this lead foot gets away from my opponent's side that I'm throwing, if I put my foot in an extended position, as we say, extension is a loss of power, I lose all my power. I lose my throwing ability because I've stepped too deep, too far. If I don't step deep enough, I won't be able to get my hips in. This gives me the perfect opportunity to put my hips into my opponent. From the whip over position, oftentimes my opponent will push into me, he'll be driving into me, and that sets up every throw. It takes momentum to execute throws correctly, and that momentum is forward motion from my opponent, driving into me. If he doesn't give me that forward motion, I have to create angles, I have to pull him and make him step, but it helps a lot if my opponent is aggressive and is coming at me for the throw. Then I have opportunities. In the whip over position, I want to find that T-step, and for right now, we'll say that my opponent isn't pushing into me. He's forced me into an upper body tie-up, under-over position here. He's winning the match. It's a desperation situation, and I really believe that this is a high percentage throw that can be executed well with a lot of practice. I have to pull my opponent. He's not pushing into me. He's ahead. He has the lead in the match. In order for me to execute this throw, I have to pull my opponent, making it all happen myself. The way I'm going to do that is with my underhook arm. Again, if I have my underhook with my left arm, it means I am leading with my left leg. I'm going to pull with that lat. I'm going to control that lat, upper back, pull it, make him step. Right here, his right foot is going to step, putting us at a quarter turn position, right there. Okay, I pulled him just a little bit behind me, rather than me stepping in and doing all the turning myself. I'm going to make him do part of the turning, a quarter turn right here, pull and step. One more time, do that a few times, pull and step. Pull and step. Once I get him there, things happen fast. As I get him here, I'm going to make that T on the foot. Wherever my toe is, if I work on it enough, it'll get close to the foot. If I practice that way, it'll become instinctive after a while. Once I'm here, my hips are coming in, I'm pulling hard on this arm, above the elbow. I don't want to slip below it. I'm going to stay tight, as close to the armpit as I can, at least on the tricep. Underhook arm punches, overhook arm pulls. Punch and pull. My hips have to pivot in. As I'm in the T position here, I want to make sure that my hips don't come all the way through, completely to there. Now he's heavy, and he's a heavier body to throw. I want to make sure I split this leg. So as I get in my T-step position, what I'm saying is when I split the leg, I want to be here. Splitting his leg, my underhook, my overhook. Now I'll roll to my left shoulder. I'm going to pop my hips. I have to be low. Notice that my knees are bent. If my legs are straight, I can't throw in this position. My knees have to be bent. I'm in a loaded throwing position right here. Pulling on the overhook, punching the underhook, rolling to my left shoulder right here. I like two kinds of throwing opportunities from every position, whether it's from two positions, and I'll just say the over position and the collar tie position. I like two kinds of throwing opportunities. One is a T-step. The other is what I refer to as a sag. Sag throw. From a sag position, if I want to sag throw my opponent after I control that lat and make him step, I put my hip in, and I have two options. I can slide into second base with my lead foot, or what I think is an easier move, my lead foot can go back. So again, as I step him, I'm just going to put my hip in and sit. I'm going to sit down, or I'm going to slide into second right here, making my throw happen. I go directly to the mat. I'm not attempting to get any high amplitude. I want a direct line. That's the quickest way to get my opponent to the mat. After I've made my pull here, pop my hips in. I'm going to slide this leg back. I prefer the leg to go back. It's more comfortable. And I just sit down. I punch, pull, sit. Right there. Getting my opponent to his back. One more time. Pull, making step. Here comes the punch. Sit right there. Looking for 5 points. A quick review with the whip over. If my opponent isn't pushing into me and I don't have pressure, he's not giving me that forward motion, I have to pull him to make my throw possible. Grabbing that lat deep, making him step. If I want to go to the T-step position, I have to remember a couple things. As I step, getting close to that foot, it's important that I bring my trail foot, as close to my foot as possible. If I leave it where it is, my feet are apart and I'm extended, I can't throw very well. I need to bring that trail foot as close to my foot as I can, which allows my hips to come in. I have to be bent. Now I can throw. If I want to sag it, I don't need to go to my T-step at all. I'm gonna punch harder, pull harder, and my lead leg is going to go the opposite direction, backwards. Here, as I punch, I'll start from the beginning. Step, punch, leg goes backwards, then I sit, taking him to the mat.
1:34 to go in period number one.
And that's a tough move. I'll tell you tonight, they begin.
Lock him up. Lock him up.
Anytime I'm in an under-over position and I feel after I've pulled the lat, attempting to make my throw here, maybe even prior to him locking his hands, prior to me stepping my foot up, if I don't feel good and I've already created the angle, I'm going to get rid of him. And what I mean when I say get rid of him is I'm going to punch this arm and I'm going to throw him over the top and get my points here. If I have to go behind him, get him off of me, kind of a throw-by position. Okay? However it happens, I can take my opponent to the mat once I throw his arm by. However, I have to go behind, stay in front, take him to his back. Okay, maybe we're a little more square, and I bear hug him to his back. However I get it down, I can get rid of that arm.
Missing my duck under places me in the under-over position. In the under-over position, I am unable to get my hips in front and therefore throw the underhook arm by, stepping in front with my lead leg, tripping my opponent, and taking him to the mat for the takedown.
Mat 6, Faulkner and then mat 6.
There you go.
68-2.
Yeah! Woo!
The other option to bail out of a whip over position that I really like is after I make my pull, make my T-step, I'm in position, say I came even real close and I'm ready to throw, but it's just not going to go, and he locks his hands, okay? I got to pull my underhook arm out. If you can see my underhook here, see my arm up here, I have to pull that arm out, and I'm going to slide my elbow to his overhook arm right here. Elbow to armpit. After I'm in this position, elbow to armpit, underhook arm slips out, and I go right in to my arm throw. And again, if I'm in the T-step, I can throw it. Okay, if I'm not quite there, I can sag it. Okay, so I make my pull, I step, do both. As I bring my trail foot closer to my T-step, he locks on me, my underhook arm pulls out, okay? I don't have my shoulder under, just my elbow. Now I make my throw right here, make my throw right there. Once I land in this position, notice my shoulder isn't under like it was in the armpit position, the underarms spin position, where my shoulder was buried in his armpit. This time it's up high. I can rock back, and I ought to be able to pull this arm out. Okay? If I have to come around to the head, chest down, I will. If I can limp this arm out, I can go to my headlock and get control. If it's freestyle, even collegiate style, I can probably hold him right here. I might not get the control until this arm comes out in collegiate style. In freestyle, I'm going to be able to hold him, get my points. The one thing I want to be leery of in this position is getting rolled through before I pull my arm out. If I get rolled through, I'm in trouble. Okay? I have to keep my hips solid to the mat, even high leg over. Now attempting to roll my arm out this way. However I can get my arm out, I'm going to go to a chest-to-chest position or basic headlock position. If I'm not a guy that likes the T-step, but I feel real comfortable with my sag throws, after I pull, setting up my whip over, and I get right to here, and I have to pull out, okay? Whip over, I can tell my hips aren't going to come in. Just pull out right to that arm throw, right here, and I sag it. Sag it. You have to realize that with throws, momentum is everything. In a live situation, the push and pull, action reaction is going to allow these throws to happen easier than where we are right now, with very little momentum, very little motion. I want to go back and review for a quick second from the whip over position. My opponent's going to give me a little bit of a live situation, a live feel, so you can see what this actually looks like and get a better feel for how the move works. I'll do a whip over first, and then we'll go into the bailout, coming to the arm throw. Once I'm in here, again, like I mentioned, if my opponent doesn't give me any reaction, if he's not pushing into me and he's just holding his ground, but he's still moving his feet and we're wrestling in here, okay, I got to pull him, and the throw's got to be that quick. I like to sag all my throws. If I had to do anything else, I would definitely go to the T-step, and I do find that opportunity at times, but I do like to sag the best of all the footwork for my throws. Okay, again, wrestling, live situation, you need to pull that lat. Okay, this time I'm going to bail out. I'm going to find my whip over position. I'm going to go directly to my arm throw as though my whip over and my opportunity here to create an angle was a setup for my arm throw. So we're wrestling. One more time. Now I'd like to go into a few high percentage headlock positions, beginning with the collar tie. I think the question to ask here is a headlock ever high percentage? I think that's what many wrestlers and coaches would ask. And my answer to that is yes, a headlock can be done well. It can be executed in a manner that can be high percentage and score against the very toughest competition. I'm going to work in a position that is more that you would see more in collegiate style and freestyle, where the hips are back, the heads are forward. I'm going to work from a collar tie and a 2-on-1 position. In a collar tie position, I at least need to be able to defend my opponent. If my opponent has forced me into a collar tie position, and he's pushing me around the mat and I don't feel comfortable here, I at least need to be able to get out of this position. I do have offense that I can hit from here. Obviously, if I'm not comfortable here in order to throw, but there are other things that I can do. Number one, I'm going to clear this arm. I'm going to clear this collar tie arm by pummeling in, reaching in, from the outside, controlling here. If he's forced me in a collar tie, maybe I'm just in an inside tie and an elbow here. If I'm in a collar tie, or if my lead arm is just at the tricep in an inside tie position, I want to reach back in, force that arm off my head, and winding up in a basic inside tie position on both arms. So again, and regardless of where my lead arm is, if I'm in a collar tie too, I still want to come back in. I want to push him off. I want to push that arm off, and I don't necessarily have to do that by reaching back. I don't need to grab those fingers and peel it. All I need to do is find a hole right in there, find the tricep, bicep area, and push him off. Push him off right there. I do have offense from here, keeping outside. I have offense. Even if I come inside, I can lower my level. I can attack the high crotch right here. If I decide to stay outside, I can still attack my head to the outside single. And however I clear this arm, I can try. If I'm in a collar tie position, I can actually try to force the head down and hope that that got him, that loosened the collar tie. And he responds by popping his head up, and I lower my level and hit my high crotch, head to the outside single right there. If I stay in the collar tie and I push this arm in, he may feel uncomfortable, he may pull it out, and that allows me to come in. I really need to clear, as I lower my level and come in right here, I really need to clear this arm. I need to pop up and over my shoulder. The more I lower my level, the more I'm going to clear this hand on my shoulder. If it was a collar tie and I've controlled it, the more I lower my level, the more I can clear to get rid of that arm. So now there's no space, there's no elbow, no block between me getting to that leg. So I don't have an elbow there or a forearm blocking me. So again, anytime I can get back inside, I can take the collar tie off. If I can get back inside and take it off, I can lower my level and attack from here. If I just reach outside, I need to clear this arm somehow. And the way I can do that, a couple ways, by pulling it out. Sometimes if I push the arm in, make my opponent uncomfortable, and I can pull it out and head to the outside right there. I always have to remember to lower my level in this position before I attack. One last situation here is going to the 2-on-1. Collar ties me, I don't feel comfortable. I can come across, look away. Once again, I bump that forearm, elbow, hook, and now I'm in my basic 2-on-1 position right here. Anytime I'm in a collar tie position, just like we worked with our whip over and our arm throw position, if my opponent isn't pushing into me and he hasn't given me some forward momentum to play with, then I have to make it happen. In a desperation situation where I'm behind, if I have a fairly good headlock, then I have to make it happen whether he pushes into me or not. And the way I'm going to do that is the same way the whip over happened, the same way the arm throw happened. I'm going to pull my opponent, I'm going to pull him and make him step. I'm going to make that quarter turn happen right there. Okay? Pulling right here. Anytime I'm in a collar tie, I really prefer a head-to-head position. If I wind up almost ear to ear here, I do always stick with my inside tie. I don't throw a headlock from an elbow control, and I make sure that I have my hand all the way around. I just don't want my hand on the back of his neck. I want my forearm on the back of his neck. So again, I make him take that quarter step. Now I can go directly into my T-step position and my sag position, just like the whip over, just like the arm throw positions. So as he takes that step, I have to find, with my lead foot, I have to find that T, which is right there. It's going to be a lot easier, at least it always was for me, rather than making the back step work. I can find the T. It's crucial that I bring my back foot to my lead foot as close as possible. I never want to throw with my legs spread apart. I always want to bring that back foot to my lead foot, and as I come around, I always want to make sure I'm splitting my opponent's lead leg. In this position right here, my feet are in close. I'm ready to execute my throw. My knees are bent. My hips are lower than my opponent's. If my legs are straight, I'm not going to get a very good throw. Okay? I always want to make sure in a headlock position that I'm throwing long with my opponent, not up and down, not trying to lift him up and take him straight down, but as my hips come in, as I make him step and my hips come in, find that T-step as close as I can get to the lead foot, bring my back foot in, I'm going to go throw long to the mat, which means that I'm going to take my head to the mat and I'm going to make my opponent hit on his left shoulder, and I'm going to turn as much as I can to my left shoulder. I like all three of these throws, the whip over, the arm throw, and the headlock, mainly because I'm never throwing to my back. Although those belly-to-belly positions can be executed and done well, I feel anytime that I've turned 180 degrees and I'm looking at the mat and I'm taking my opponent over my hip, I have a better chance to score, and I feel it's a safer throw. So once again, once I have the quarter turn, T-step, make my back foot step in, I'm in position to throw, splitting that hip. I don't want my hips way out. I want to split that hip so I get some pop, and as I pop, I'm going to take him directly to the mat. So my hips are going to pop, and I'll make my throw happen. If my opponent's pushing into me, then I don't have to make that quarter turn. It's not so crucial that I make him step. Sometimes I can set him up in this position by giving him a little push, and he pushes back, and I step, my hips come in, and I throw right there. Anytime I can get momentum from my opponent, I'm going to have a much better chance, more momentum to make the throw, to get my hips in. And if I'm wrestling freestyle, those are the opportunities that are going to give me a 5-point throw. And again, like I said, I'm really addressing freestyle and collegiate because in Greco, we would be hip to hip, not head to head or ear to ear. And I think anytime we can throw in freestyle or collegiate, it's a surprise. In Greco, my opponent and I are both looking for the throw. We're leery of the throw, but in freestyle and collegiate, we're not quite so leery, and it can be used as more of a weapon. Depending on what you work on and what you develop, you may like a headlock that comes under the arm and locks here. Some wrestlers find that that's pretty comfortable. I can't say that that was a favorite of mine, but I have seen it work consistently. I'll go through a couple things that I really liked, situations that I found were useful to me in setting up a headlock position. Probably the position that I found more than anything was off of a duck under position. I'm in a collar tie, and I go to duck my opponent, and he pulls out, and as he pulls out, my hips come in, and I throw my headlock. If I can get to here, okay, I don't want to just fake it. I want to commit on my duck under as he pulls out. I'm throwing right off of that. Maybe a little riskier than your basic headlock position, but again effective because of the fact that it does surprise my opponent. Sometimes I just find myself in an inside tie position where I rotate, I move my inside tie arm, and I'm going to use my left side. That's the side that I collar tie with and the side I like to throw to. So leading with my left arm, so I'll take that inside tie off of off of the tricep position, my opponent's tricep here. When my opponent pushes in, he's not really expecting a headlock, and I can headlock him right from this position. I'm going to go into a sag throw, and I would say if I had to evaluate between the T-step and a sag, as I said earlier, I really feel the sag is very high percentage. Maybe that's an individual decision, but it sure was more high percentage for me. Or again, if I just have the forward momentum established, I'm going to hit hard, hitting the side of his head, his ear, with my bicep right there. Not with just my forearm, but with my bicep. And I'm again going to sag two different ways. I like to, as I have said before, I like to take my foot back. Some guys prefer to take the lead leg forward. So as I sag, I really need this arm to be my punch arm. I'm going to pull hard with my inside tie. And again, I need momentum. The more momentum I have, the better this works. As I pull and I punch with my lead arm here, my hips turn in. Very minimal footwork here, and I'm just turning my hips almost as though I'm sliding into home plate. So as I get a little momentum from my opponent, he pushes. All I'm going to do is sit, punch with my bicep, sit, taking him right to his back, right there. One more time. A little momentum. If I can just push into my opponent just a little bit, if I'm in inside ties or a collar tie, he pushes back, and I get that momentum going. Bicep comes in, and I sit. Obviously, the headlock is safer in freestyle and Greco competition because if we do slip on the head, we will be put back up in the neutral position, depending on the referee's judgment. In collegiate, if I miss the head, I may give up a takedown, which does make that throw more risky. So I really have to drill it, and I also have to realize and evaluate if I'm in a situation where I need a headlock. Do I need a 5-point throw right now to win this match? Again, whether it's from the collar tie, I think a sag works real well from inside ties when my opponent's pushing. Again, when I need the points. I never go out in a match and force my headlock. I never go out there looking for it. My opponent may know that I like throws and I like that collar tie position. I don't want to tell him about it. I want to use it only when it's there as a surprise, and that way it's a real weapon. And if I go out there looking for it, I'm forcing the attack, and those are the times that my opponent I'll slip on the head in collegiate style and give my opponent the takedown.
And a match between these two there's never a sure winner to the final buzzer, because Knight and Clinton is capable of doing upper body throws and scoring a lot of points really fast. So even if he is down by 5 right now, he can even things up real fast.
Gibbons was just warned for stepping back in that situation. See him locked up.
And there it is.
Oh, there is the throw. And Gibbons is in real trouble here on the edge of the mat.
And Steve Knight takes him directly to his back. Extended position. No. Judge says 2.
State Steve Knight takes on Oklahoma State's Kendall Cross in the...
The last option I'll show in the headlock position comes from a 2-on-1 position right here. I think all of us question a headlock position in the NCAA finals, in the World Championship finals, in the Olympic finals, and I want you to know that I have seen, and there are some great wrestlers, some of the very best in the world, who have executed the headlock, whether it be in freestyle or Greco or collegiate, at the very top levels. I can remember some great wrestlers. One, for example, Steve Frazier. He won an Olympic gold medal in '84. He had a great headlock from the 2-on-1 position, Olympic gold medalist. When I'm in this position, I consider this a hook with my lead arm here, and I really don't grab the arm. I don't grab the tricep or even hook the bicep. I hook it elbow deep in the armpit. With my other hand, I keep my thumb up. In this position, I try to keep the elbow spread across my chest rather than taking the thumb down and taking it in a downward motion. I want to keep it up. I want to keep it spread across my chest. If I can keep forward motion, forward pressure into my opponent right here, I'll frustrate him. A lot of times, ideal position would have my head in. Anytime my opponent's head is in, I can still headlock him from this position, but I don't have quite the control. Regardless of where my head is, if my opponent posts and his head is either in a head-to-head position or in a position where I can still get to my headlock, what I need to happen is I need for my opponent to attempt to square his hips, to post off on me right here. Sometimes my opponent will just post on my head and try to straighten out right there. That makes the headlock a little harder to do. It's a little easier to do off the shoulder, pretty common position. And once that happens, I'm going to take my hook arm, which is my left arm on this side, to the headlock position. And again, this is going to become my punch arm with that bicep. My right hand that's controlling his wrist is just going to come up and catch right over on the forearm. I'm going to throw my headlock in that position. And I really feel that it's best to sag this headlock from the 2-on-1 position. So again, as my opponent, I'm pushing into him, trying to develop more forward motion. He's trying to post off and push back on me and square his hips. As he's pushing in, I'm going to release. I'm going to club with my left arm with the bicep at his head, at his ear. My wrist hand is going to come over the top, I'm going to sag my hips and go right into my headlock position. My opponent posts off on me. As he's pushing into me, I feel pressure coming in. My hook arm comes out, really punches into the head. I catch whatever I can over here, catch it coming over, sag down, right into the headlock right there. Again, I have to remember to secure however I go about securing my opponent in this position once I've taken him to the mat. Defending the 2-on-1 position comes from a collar tie many times. However, my opponent puts me in a 2-on-1 position. I have to be able to defend this position, and sometimes I look passive in this position because my opponent's pushing into me. I can't get my arm free, and I need to clear this position and keep wrestling, at least come out of the position. If I can't score from here, I at least need to get back to square one. I need to get back neutral with my opponent so I can score. The way I'm going to do that is by controlling the wrist. I don't want to post on my opponent because I do give him that opportunity for a headlock. If I post on his shoulder, if I post on his head and push him away, he can push my arms up, double leg me. There are many attacks off of the post. So I always want to make sure that instead of pushing away on my opponent, I attack his wrist, which means my free arm is going to attack the wrist. I'm going to take that off. As I take that off, as I push that off, I may push my head into him. As I clear it, my hand becomes somewhat free, and I immediately want to go to my underhook position. I immediately want to swing, leading with my elbow, digging with my elbow. I want to swing to my underhook position right here. Now I've broken the 2-on-1 position. I'm fairly neutral with my opponent, at least in a position that I can wrestle. If I don't like the underhook here, I can push him away, get clear, completely separated from my opponent, and continue wrestling. Once again, 2-on-1 position. Even if he locks over on his own wrist, that makes it a little tougher, but I still have to attack this wrist. The other option that I do have in here that is very, very high percentage, very successful, if I can't get to the wrist, and many times when he comes across controlling his own wrist, I can't fight both arms here. He's too strong. My one arm won't overpower both of his arms, so I need to find his elbow. Okay? I'm going to put my head in. I'm going to find his elbow. I'm going to pull straight to the side right there. I'm going to pull straight to the side, and as I pull to the side, I'm going to swing again to that underhook position, breaking the wrist, coming to my underhook right there. One more time. I can't get to the wrist. I can't make it work. I've got to find the elbow that allows my wrist to become free, rotating, digging with my elbow to the underhook position. Now I'm at least neutral. If I don't like it here, I can push away and get cleared. I'd like to just cover a little bit after I've taken my opponent to the mat. No matter how my lock is here, whether I'm going from a collar tie or inside ties or here, whether I've ducked it, come back and throw it, however I've done it, once I get my opponent to his back and I've made him step, I've taken him to his back, sagged him down. Okay, right now, he's to his back, and there's a couple things that I have to remember that are crucial to score points here. We've all seen it happen where we throw a nice headlock on our opponent, and immediately he locks, rolls me through, and I lose. In freestyle, I lose 2. In collegiate, I might possibly not get any points for the takedown or back points, and he winds up on top with a takedown and near fall points. So as soon as I sag a headlock or if I make the T-step, immediately as my opponent hits the mat, I always want to remember my post hand, the hand that goes around his head, posts right out there. And that stops his momentum. If he's timing, locking on my waist, timing a roll through here as I hit, that hand stops it. That hand stops it. Now I'll sink my hips back to the mat as far into the mat as I can, and I'll get my lock again right in here. Sometimes in freestyle, I found that if I bounce on my opponent a little bit, lift his head and bounce, I can get that fall. Sometimes my opponent will put up his right elbow, and that's, or even if he's on his right elbow and posting on his hip, where I can't get that far shoulder down, that's when I really need to lift that head and bounce, shake him, and try to get that fall. In collegiate style, where I may have to hold my opponent here a little longer to score, there's a couple things that I can do, and one is come in and get a lock right in here. It's legal. There's nothing illegal about that lock. If the hard part is coming from the elbow, snaking my hand in, and getting the lock right in on the bicep, tricep area, and that's real tight. And again, I have to lift the head and try to get the fall. Always realize that even after I've put him in this position, he may come back and try to roll me again. After I've already situated my hips, I may have to pull my lead hand out and post again. Come back to it, try to get the pin. Last situation from here, and I think this is the most high percentage finish. It's 100% legal if done the right way. I think many officials will call this potentially dangerous, so it is something that you have to be careful with. The objective, I want to throw my opponent's arm, this arm that's under my arm, across his face. If I put it across his mouth and his nose, the referee is immediately going to say potentially dangerous, or he may even say, hey, that's illegal, you're shutting off his air. So I want to make sure it goes over his eyes, make sure it goes over his forehead, right there where he can still breathe. Okay? The tightest position, as we know from basic fundamental top position wrestling, if I can ever get my chest on my opponent in that chest-to-chest position, I have my best opportunity to control my opponent and score. So what I want to do here, as I push this arm across, I want to shift my hips. My legs are going to hip heist. I'm going to rotate my hips, putting my chest down. Okay? The arm, my hand that's controlling his arm, I'm going to replace this hand with my head, with the side of my head, with my ear right here. Now my hand is free. Now I can lock. You'll notice that when I lock, I still have the arm in between my lock. If you lock here, it's illegal, so I have to have that arm in, block it with my head, make sure it's still over his eyes and his forehead, lock my hands as tight as I can, hip down on my opponent, get chest to chest, hips real flat, stay on my toes, and look for my fall. I really believe that's one of the tightest pinning combinations in the headlock position. One other thing that I do want you to be aware of is my opponent's leg coming over, hooking in, rolling me through, or just coming up on top. If I'm not perpendicular with my opponent, and even if I am perpendicular, I have to be leery of his leg coming over and getting control and trying to pull himself up on top. So I don't ever want that leg to come in, and I want to stay. That's why it's important. If I shift my weight and scissor my feet here, there's no opportunity for my opponent to leg in on me. But if I don't decide to do that, and I stay here, want to make sure my feet are out toward his head, and I want to be ready to post if I ever feel my opponent lock his hands and attempt to roll me through.
Settle in, settle in. Slow, slow, nice and slow. There it is.
There you go. Yes! Woo!
After viewing this video, I hope you have gained more understanding about the upper body, tie-ups, and throwing positions. I truly believe that all of you that are aspiring to be state or national champions have to feel comfortable offensively and defensively in the upper body positions. Throwing is an art and takes much time to perfect. Win with high percentage offense, but realize you're always going to be faced with a situation where you have to defend your opponent's throw or throw yourself to win a big match.